Whenever you're ready. There's your gap. You're more than welcome.
Off the dirt.
Good evening. All right. We are going to begin by calling to order our annual Organizational Planning Commission meeting. It's Thursday, January 16th, 2025, 6 p.m. We're at the White Bluff Town Hall. I'm your town planner, Amanda Harrington. We're going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to ask Secretary Jeff Martin to call roll, please.
Yes, ma'am. Debbie Brewer.
Here.
Michael Gunn. Here. Kate Hamilton.
Here.
Stephanie Merle.
Here.
Connie Reed.
Here. Thank you. The purpose of this meeting is to have our election of officers for the Planning Commission. The first agenda item is the election of Planning Commission Chair for 2025. I'd like to open the floor for any nominations for the position of the election of Planning Commission Chairman for 2025. Do I have any nominations on the floor?
I nominate Michael Gunn.
I have a nomination for Michael Gunn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second for Mr. Gunn to be Chairman of the Planning Commission for 2025. Do we have any other nominations on the floor? Seeing none?
Oh, okay.
Seeing none, Mr. Gunn has no choice. He has been nominated. And with that, roll call or by acclamation?
Since there's only one nominee, just a simple yea or nay vote.
Okay. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying not nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Gunn. All right. Next up is the election. Mr. Gunn, would you like me to continue chair or okay? Next up on our agenda is the election of the Planning Commission Vice Chair for 2025. I'll open the floor for nomination for election of Vice Chair.
I nominate Kate Hamilton.
Oh, Jiminy Creek.
All right, we have a nomination for Ms. Hamilton. Do we have any other nominations on the floor? Do we have a second for Ms. Hamilton?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor for Ms. Hamilton, who also has no choice?
Aye.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Ms. Hamilton.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And the last and final on our Organizational Planning Commission meeting is the election of the Planning Commission Secretary for 2025. The position is currently held by Mr. Martin.
I nominate Jeff Martin.
Okay, got a nomination for Mr. Martin.
Second.
Go ahead. And we have a second. Again, Mr. Martin has no choice. All those in favor signify.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Martin. With your new officer installed, there's no other items of business. I adjourn the meeting of the annual organizational meeting. Congratulations.
January 16th Planning Commission meeting to order. First
is to approve the minutes of the November 12th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
Actually, I'll back up. Can we do the roll call first for the, I know we just did it, but Mr. Martin, will you do the roll call, please?
Absolutely. Debbie Brewer.
Here.
Michael Gunn.
Here.
Kate Hamilton.
Here.
Stephanie Morrow.
Here.
Connie Reed.
Here.
Now we can do that.
First thing is to approve the minutes of the November 12th, 2024 regular Planning Commission meeting.
Make a motion to approve those minutes. I second.
We have a second, so minutes are approved.
Call for a vote after the second.
Do we have a vote on the approval of the minutes?
Aye. Aye. Yes.
You can pick your own language, but typically you would say, all those in favor say aye, and that way we know how they vote. Okay, we're getting through it. 5-0 minutes.
Hold on.
And while he's grabbing that, Mr. Chairman, by state law, we have to allow public comments on items germane to the agenda from the public for all government meetings. People sign up outside, and so Mr. Martin's bringing you that list, so you'll just run down each person who has signed up to speak on any of the agenda items tonight.
Okay, the first one that we have to speak for considered rezoning for Highway 70, map 095, parcel 072.00 from R1, low density residential, to R3, high density residential. We have Linda Quinlan.
I've been here pretty much before, but in my opinion is always about, I want to make sure that when we're moving from R1 to R3, I know that all of you know a lot of what goes on and how it happens. But if during the course of things you can explain things like to people like me who don't really have all of the technical things. But my real comment, besides congratulations to the new officer, I really am concerned that when we move to high density, that we consider how it affects the community. If we have such high density that people don't have a vested interest and they're renting everything out to people who come and go, I'm not sure how valuable that is to the town. It might be very valuable to some people, but I really want to make sure that the land is properly used, that we have the infrastructure to accommodate whatever it is, because the town is growing, and I know it's a lot of stress on our sewers, on our water, and so I just want to make sure that it will benefit us in the long run. We love to have more people in our community. This is a great town. I didn't move here too long ago, but I just don't want it to be a transient community, or at least a transient community that puts the load on people who are here and our resources and not give anything back. That's it.
Okay, next we have Tony Underhill.
I signed that by mistake. I thought that was just a signing sheet. I'm sorry, I signed that by mistake.
All right. That's all that we have. Nope, Carl Kincaid. Nope, that's for the side.
Yes.
Okay, so we're done with the rezoning. So, Carl Kincaid for White Bluff zoning ordinance, Article 4, supplementary provisions applying to specific district, section 4.070, standards for signs, billboards, and other advertising structures.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Carl Kincaid, 109 Carriageway. Congratulations, all officers, for y'all's positions. That's awesome. Look forward to y'all's service. I just simply wanted to make a comment as far as billboards. Obviously, there's plenty of things in the rumor mill, but I know that there's things and questions, or at least been talked about, as far as a large billboard in our downtown area. I would just like to express my disapproval of that. I think it would ruin the charm and the historic nature of our downtown area. I would also, as a citizen, implore, hopefully, that our town planner would maybe possibly looking for a special district for our downtown area to protect that and the character that it has. Obviously, billboards are acceptable in some areas of town. We have some on the more extremities, but just simply on the more inner portions. I would personally like to see those at a lower level, perhaps about maybe at the maximum height of a single store unit, no more than second level, but preferably more on the lower end, something that could be more described as a shingle or as a sign. I think that's much more appropriate for the historic nature of our White Bluff area. As far as the outskirts, billboards, have no problem, but like I said, to remain consistent, I think it would be much easier to look at it as saying, hey, in this district, here's our regulations. Outside of that, billboard away. So that's just my 2 cents, and I want to share it, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. All right, that's the end of the agenda
Yes, for the public comment.
for the public comments. Next item is agenda, consider final plat for Maple Crest subdivision, 1247 Cornell Road, map 099, parcel 006.00.
Mr. Chairman, what you have in your packet, the first page is comments from our planner, Ms. Harrington. The next page is just the proposed final plat. The subsequent pages are individual HPR properties. And at the end of that, and there's 30 some odd of those, so it goes on. And at the end of that are, I included 2 bonds that are in place that will finish the road within the development and will also finish the sidewalks within the development. So that's what you have in your packet tonight.
Okay. Anyone have any comments?
The review of the final plat appears to demonstrate compliance with both the town of White Bluff subdivision regulations and the previously approved preliminary plat.
Anybody else?
I'm going to make a motion to approve the final plat.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman, is that with surety amounts as stated for the road and sidewalk?
Yeah, well, yes, all of it is. This whole package.
Understood. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay,
Does this include the self-imposed conditions for the revisions to the infrastructure?
The zoning ordinance did.
But is that included in the surety bond?
Yes, if I'm understanding, the surety is for the top coat on the new road within the development and the top coat on the widening of Hornell Road.
And they've already put in place the fire hydrant and got that taken care of.
The water lines
Yes.
that had to be replaced to accommodate the new
Yes.
fire hydrant?
Yeah.
And so the road, the current width for Hornell Road is the maximum that it's going to be?
They've already started doing, they've already cut into what they.
they put a shoulder on one.
Yeah, they've done the widening, but they just haven't done any paving on it.
That will be paid,
Yeah.
but yes.
Alright. So we have a second that the final plat for Maple Cliff subdivision. As accepted. Any other comments? All right. Next item is consider. Oh, sorry. So, everybody in favor of accepting the rezoning request, the final plat?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Carried. Now we can- Next item is consider rezoning request for U.S. Track Work LLC parcel Highway 70, map 095, parcel 072.00 from R1 low density residential to R3 high density residential. Have any comments on that?
I do, thank you. The applicant has requested a zone change from R1 to R3 to develop a high-density subdivision fronting Highway 70. The request is dimensionally appropriate for an R3 zone. However, the request does not correlate with the town's overall vision and commercial development trends along Highway 70, arguably the town's most heavily traveled commercial corridor. Staff respectfully recommends against this rezoning because a residential-only development does not fit the town's vision for the development along the Highway 70 corridor.
So, Mr. Chairman, just as a brief overview, in a rezoning request, that starts at this body. You are reviewing it. You also see, in addition to Ms. Harrington's staff report, what they would propose to build, but you're not really commenting or approving that building. That's just so they can do what the town requires as a traffic assessment. So that's the last document in there, showing you what they anticipate the traffic demands to be. But this body makes a recommendation onto the town council. They are vested with the authority to actually rezone things. You're just making that recommendation, and they will take that into account when they consider it. So again, you need a first and a second to either recommend favorably or recommend unfavorably onto the town council. Once you have a first and a second, you can have more discussion if this body wants to discuss it further. And I do believe someone from the applicant is here if you want to hear from them.
I will make a motion to get it started. I'll make a motion to send it up unfavorably to the council because in my vision, I see this as commercial, not as residential.
Chairman, you have a valid motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. I have a second. I'm going to send it to them.
Just ask if there's any more discussion.
Any more discussion on this?
Well, being the new person up here, Amanda, when it says it does not correlate with the town's overall vision and commercial, that is, I believe, when you're looking at that, you are definitely looking at the types of commercial development that would be appropriate for that area.
That's correct. I'm looking at the current development patterns. I've looked through the planning documents that the city, that the town has approved over the years. The applicant had requested a list of specific documents that I had pulled that statement from, that I had examined, and that's been provided. But throughout the years, from TVA comprehensive plans, from our own comprehensive plan, from the land use transportation studies, Highway 70 has always been identified as a commercial corridor for the town.
I'm used to having a work study where I'm not eloquent, but I had a question. Okay, so, and I don't know if it even pertains, if I can bring it up, but the same developers are the ones going to develop on 70, right here with Church and 70 Neat, and they would not allow a turn, they would not do a turn lane. I think the
So I think that's kind of jumping the gun. Let me just point out two things, Mr. Chairman. First, we have to take applications as they come in. We can't really look at what's happened with other applications. I know it's going to be in your head, but you have to look at what's in front of you. In terms of what infrastructure would be required or not with any site plan or plat that this body would see, you would need to take it up typically at that time. But you're welcome to talk about infrastructure here because we require a traffic assessment to give you an idea of the impact on that infrastructure. Knowing that it's a state highway, and we've talked about this many times, you can require reasonable conditions, TDOT still has to bless it, right? So if you want to talk about infrastructure with this side, I think that's appropriate. With any other application, I don't think that's appropriate for this agenda item. Just wanted to kind of, yeah.
Anybody else have anything?
I'll just repeat what Amanda said and others, is that, to me, this is would be an appropriate spot for a commercial development, and the fact that it's entirely residential, I would not be in favor of supporting it.
So, Mr. Chairman, you have a valid first and second to send it on to the town council with an unfavorable recommendation. If there's no other discussion, you can call for a vote.
Okay, we have a vote.
So, all those in
All
favor?
in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carried. To send it to the town council with an unfavorable recommendation.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next item on the agenda is consider amendment of the White Bluff zoning ordinance, Article 4, supplementary provisions applying to specific districts, Section 4.070, standard for signs, billboards, and other advertising structures.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll kind of kick this off, and of course, any input from Amanda and Jeff, please jump in. What I passed out before the meeting, and my apologies, I was supposed to have a red line version for you to look at as well as this final version, so I'll kind of go through it on what has changed in what this Section 4070, which addresses signs, billboards, and other advertising structures, has subparts A, B, C, D, and E. The overhaul is really in subsection A, that first section there. It has 11 parts underneath it, and I'll just kind of run through that. Currently, no illuminated sign is permitted within 100 feet of a property in a residential district. We have put in 1,000 feet to allow sort of a greater bubble around residential property to not have an illuminated sign. Every one of these is up for discussion. I'm just telling you what we've changed it from. In number 2, we've reduced the length of a billboard. It was 100 feet, which is a very, very long billboard. The standard size is 40 by 10, so we reduced the maximum feet to 40. And then one thing we didn't have was an overall square footage cap, and we put in here 400 square feet. So again, the standard 40 by 10 would be encompassed. You could not go beyond that for a single billboard location. In subsection 3, we took out a lot of language, but it's specific to billboards, and it also created that 1,000-foot buffer around residential districts. It was 100 feet, just like the illuminated sign. In number 4, just a little bit of cleanup from where we were talking about different portable signs, and we made that much more succinct, and that no portable signs shall be permitted, meaning the other term you might see out there is bandit signs. You can't just slap signs anywhere in town. You have to go through typically a process, and there is a section in here, subsection B, dealing with temporary signs such as yard sale, for sale, things like that. That's addressed, but just the random bandit or portable signs are banned still. That's just a cleanup of language. 5 and 6 did not change from what currently exists. 7 hasn't really changed from what's there. It just added some notice language at the very end of that provision. In number 8, currently, it says no billboard shall be located closer than 15 feet from the right-of-way, and that was increased to 25 feet, just to have a little bit more room from the right-of-way. There's several reasons for that we can get into, but visibility, distraction to drivers. If you're going to expand that road, it can make it harder. You really want kind of a buffer there. And what I saw in neighboring jurisdictions was it's a little bit more common at 25 feet rather than 15. So we updated that to 25 feet. In number 9, we cleaned up the language just to say that any type of sign, billboard, or other advertising device shall not intrude upon the public right-of-way. That's just a good baseline to have. Number 10 and 11 are new. So number 10, I'm just going to read and explain. For purposes of distance calculation, because we've had this issue come up a couple of times very recently, so we wanted to clarify. The distance between the nearest edge of the sign, billboard or other advertising device, and the closest point of the applicable parcel as measured in a straight line shall be used. So you have to go from wherever that pole or whatever you're using is going to be and check all the properties around it. That would be zoned residential typically is going to be the biggest thing that comes up. If you're creating that bubble, we have to know how to measure it. And to aid in that process, because again it's come up a couple of times and we wanted to make sure to clarify, if you are bringing in a sign that exceeds 12 feet in height or 100 square feet in area, you must submit a site plan. And one of the benefits for that is to know exactly where it's going to be, but also those distances will be in there. There was one meeting we had to have trying to figure out how far away something was, and they need to come in with an actual site plan so we can see the exact distances to make sure they comply with the ordinance. So those were the major revisions. There were a few little things, just language cleanup and the rest that's non-substantial. I did, just for the record, in subsection B, these temporary signs, the town had a provision in there that required a permit to be obtained before using any temporary signs, and we just haven't done that. And I think that's a lot of paperwork for temporary signs. So I deleted it. If y'all want it back in, I can certainly do that, but we weren't doing it. I think it was just something that was overlooked because that's not typical. It's not typical to get a permit for a for sale sign for your house. So we removed that part, and then I'm just scanning here. When we got down into subsection C in residential districts, again referring to cleaning up certain language in there, and number 6, but nothing substantive. And then any reference to poster boards was deleted because I know it's probably not a major shock, or maybe it is. We have about 12 different definitions for different types of signs, and we used poster boards, and it wasn't a defined term, so I didn't want to create any confusion, so we deleted the references to poster boards. It's either some type of sign, a billboard, or another advertising device that's defined in your zoning ordinance. So that's my overall update on this. Happy to entertain any questions. If Jeff or Amanda have any additional thoughts, I would ask them to comment. And just real quick, Mr. Chairman, this is a zoning ordinance change, so much like a zoning map change, the previous item. This body sees it first and makes a recommendation favorably or unfavorably to the town council. So you're not deciding what the change is, you're just making a recommendation up or down.
I was interested in the no permit when I first moved here, but a couple of years ago had a garage sale, or wanted to have one, and came down to town hall thinking I had to apply for a permit to have one. And they kind of looked at me like, what? So I think most of us that have moved here from someone else were used to doing things like that. But it makes me feel good to live in a community where you trust people to have their yard sales and garage sales and not need a permit to do so.
as long as you will take it down when it's over.
Oh, well, to be honest, I have noticed a couple in our neighborhood, and I've removed them myself when it's been like 3 weeks later.
Well, this says 10 days, and that wasn't a change, it's always been that way. You have to remove your temporary signs within 10 days, and that's pretty standard, so. You could argue it should be sooner, honestly, but, 10 days is enough time to get them down.
Any more discussion on telephone poles or anything like that, too, yeah?
Well, on no public
No,
infrastructure.
right away, nothing
Yeah.
like that, no.
And that would be in the right of way.
Is there anything in here, and I may be saying this totally wrong, but, in not so much residential area, but like in our commercial district, or downtown district, that gives us the right to just say no? No.
No to what?
No to putting up a billboard.
So, the town has the ability, and that you have several neighboring jurisdictions, that just don't allow billboards, right? You have that ability. Some have very little billboard restrictions. I mean, there's really no consistency I've seen. I'll defer to Amanda. Across municipalities and counties, really, across the state, it's really what does that jurisdiction want for its town? And we have had the discussion of, should we be looking at the 70 corridor, especially the red light to red light, if you will, as something else. That doesn't really address it here, but there is a lot of residential zoned property in that corridor. So I think if there are spots, it probably would be sparse, and the edges of town would be probably where there's more area to put up a billboard, as this is written right now. But to answer your question, the town, if it goes through the process, can just outright ban billboards. It would not be retroactive. So any existing billboard is
Right.
grandfathered in, but that means any new billboard.
Right. I'm just thinking about the area right here in town, not so much the outlying part of town, to have the ability to say no.
Well, again, and this is, I'll use this as an instructive example for the new members. Things that come before you, if you want to make a change to it, you can make a motion to change a word, add a phrase, add a whole section if you want. If you get a second and it gets approved, that gets incorporated in, and then you can still take up the whole document. But if you want to see any changes to anything that comes before you like this, you just make a motion. So if you, for example, if Commissioner Reed wanted to make a motion just to ban billboards in the town, that's a valid motion, and someone else could second it. You can discuss it and vote on that. Again, it's not law at that point. You're just taking that version of this document and sending it up to the town council for 2 readings to make it an ordinance, to make it law. So, sorry, piggyback on what you said as an example.
But that would be separate from this document, right?
It would need to be in this.
In this one? Okay.
And there's nothing to prevent y'all from passing this up and then taking time to think on that, and we can always come back behind it, but for efficiency, we like it all as one. So Amanda's got to update the zoning ordinance and send that back out and put that on the website.
Is there a place right in town that's less than 1,000 foot from a residential?
I haven't measured.
I can't think of anywhere that it would be residential within 1,000 feet.
For the sake of making it clean, I'm gonna make a motion that we add to this document, and I don't know how you wanna say it, but to say no to billboards in our downtown area. Not the outlying areas, but I don't know how you wanna say that.
We would need a geographical area.
Red light to red light.
So intersection to intersection?
Sure.
Just along 70, or
Yes.
to extend, like, if somebody wanted to put something on Main, or, I mean, any of the outlying?
Well, Maine is residential, so I'm not really, you know.
Yeah, you're not asking for the 1,000 feet to change, you're
No.
adding a layer on top that says,
Right.
oh, by the way.
Yeah,
70 red lights up.
yes.
Well, again, since I'm new, do we have a historic district? Has any historic district ever been considered?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a second?
Okay, we have a second.
Just for clarification, we're saying no billboards from Highway 70 White Bluff Road to Highway 70, Highway 47.
Yes,
Um,
yeah, red light,
at the red light.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
But I would almost say that I think our business district is expanding further west of the red light. So if you're going to do that, I would,
Church Street at least, or Highway 47, the other Highway 47.
You could just say Highway 70 if you wanted to, but you are going to catch the outer edges of town too with that.
Yeah, I'm not so much concerned with the areas past our red lights, because, that lies outside of everything. Because just like what we are sending up to the council about, the rezoning request that we got, if that ends up being commercial, I can see that they would possibly want, a billboard of some sort. But that's far enough outside, I don't know, I'm just guessing, but to me, that's far enough outside of our main street areas.
You go 47 south, or they call it east, but
Burns Road?
Yeah.
That's easier.
You could go a little bit further west to encompass that area if you wanted to.
And there is a billboard right there.
Well, we can't,
Printing company.
we can't do anything about ones that are already up.
Right.
We're talking billboards on,
My understanding is this is billboards only. There's a lot of other types of signs, but
Right.
you're
so
saying billboards.
if there was a commercial business there, they would still be able to have their own signage. It just would not be billboard signage. Correct.
Yes, I these humongous sticking straight up with, like, it's just, I just don't think it's right for this right in here in our town area.
So let me give
I
you
mean, if you want to expand on that, that's up to y'all, that was just my,
I don't want to interrupt, well, we've got a first and a second on the motion, but let me just read you the definition of billboard, so you have that, you know what you're
Okay.
saying no to in this area. A billboard is a type of advertising sign having more than 100 square feet of display surface, which is either erected on the ground or attached to or supported by a building or structure. So over 100 square feet of advertising area. So you would effectively be limiting businesses to something under 100 square feet. And if they went under 100 square feet, they wouldn't have to do a site plan. So you are, I mean, you're making a pretty big demarcation line there on what you have to, there's a lot you have to do above 100, or you can't do it in certain areas, square feet. And if you're under, this is going to be a normal sign process.
And they would be capped at 12 feet in height, or?
That was the trigger for a site plan.
Okay.
That doesn't deal with the definition of a billboard. A billboard technically could be really low to the ground, though I guess that doesn't quite accomplish the purpose.
you can call it gate between, you could have defined as a between a billboard or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's whatever's over 100 square feet is the current definition. So,
and our business is right here along 70 in our town area. I don't know that there's any of them that have anything over 100. I mean, you know what I'm saying? None of them have a sign that large.
yeah, I mean, 10 foot by 10 foot to 100 square,
Right.
That's,
Not big.
it's a couple of those TVs put together, that's maybe more.
When I think billboard, I'm thinking about the one out here, that's what I'm thinking about. I do not want these ginormous,
That's 40 by 10, that's the more standard.
yeah, I don't want these humongous signs in the middle of White Bluff. I don't even know how you want to say that.
Well, you already have, we have a motion and a second to not have any billboards from red light to red light, and y'all were discussing whether to possibly, I guess, amend
Expand it.
that to go further west per the mayor's comment. That's what we were.
Instead of saying no billboard, I mean, could we say no sign larger than so many square feet, or?
Well, if you say no billboard, you're saying nothing above 100. But if you wanted to pick a different number, you could. I like sticking to things that are already defined in the zoning ordinance rather than square feet. Because that could get kind of, I guess someone could do a 1 by really tall thing, leads to goofy things that are possible that you can't plan every possibility, you're just trying to get the large swath of possibilities taken care of.
If anybody wants to amend any of that, you're welcome to. That's just my,
Well, right now, it's red light to red light. If y'all want to expand that, now would be the time before you take a vote on this amendment. And then we would have to take up the full document.
It's Highway 47, east, south, whatever it is.
Burns Road.
Burns Road.
So is that are you asking, are you making a motion to,
Yes.
I know it's going to sound ridiculous, amend the motion?
Yes.
And I second it.
Second.
yeah, okay.
All right, then we need to vote on expanding the distance. So let's take a vote on that first, on your motion and her second.
And it's White Bluff Road to Highway 47 west, east, or
Burns
Burns.
Burns Road. No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
All right, so that is the new stated amendment. You need to vote on the master document now with that amendment.
Okay, I make a motion to send the document up to the council favorably, adding the amendment for no billboards from Highway 70 at White Bluff Road all the way to Highway 47, which we're saying is Burns Road.
Second it.
All right, carried. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The amendment of the zoning ordinance, Article 4, provision of plan of specific district, section 4.070, standards for sign, billboards, and other advertising structure will go to city council. Number 5, consider final plat for Maryland K. Caldwell subdivision, 3027 Westcott Road, map 082, parcel 36.04.
Mr. Chairman, I have some large format copies of that would be easy to see. You have it in your packet, small. We're going to share. And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Peyton Northcutt is here if you want to hear the same from him.
Are you guys familiar with the new restaurant, Brian's Steakhouse? It used to be Houston's and Gallagher Street. So this is near that intersection of Westcott Road and 47 North. that R2 employee? Was it R2
No,
or R1?
one, but, I believe the lot size and everything, that it doesn't need to be rezoned. It should be built on, according to what we've got here, right?
Right, I reviewed the plat against the final plat requirements and meets all the zoning standards.
When did we see the preliminary plat? How long ago was that? Do we remember? Was it fall? Just a few months ago?
A few months ago, yeah.
It's been a while.
Do we have a motion to accept this plat as presented?
I'll move to accept.
Have a second?
Second.
All right. Final plat for Marilyn K. Caldwell. Well, we got to vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, carried. Final plat for Marilyn K. Caldwell subdivision, 3027 Westcott Road, map 082, parcel 36.04, has been approved. Last thing on the agenda is acknowledge EZA annual training for 2024.
So, Mr. Chairman, and you all will get to take advantage of this year, but the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals is required to have 4 hours of training each year. Organizations like TAPA usually offer that training, and so we'll invite everybody out to the Civic Center or in here and participate in that training. Once we do that, I just need an acknowledgement from this body. Some of these names does not apply, but I just need acknowledgement that Connie Reed, Debbie Brewer, and Sherry Jackson attended the required training for 2024.
Make a motion that we acknowledge that this was done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I make a motion to adjourn. That's my drama.
Oh, you'll always be in on that.
All in favor of adjournment?
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye and aye.
On this portable thing, not affixed to the ground, they got where, something.